Hey YouTube, welcome back. Gonna try something a little different this time. Still gonna be doing wedding photos, but I'm gonna have a little video so you can see me talking, so you know it's real and authentic. Okay, straight to it. So today we're gonna do more wedding photos, just kind of editing tutorial. And if you're just tuning in, go check out some of my other videos. I talk a lot about how to edit my photos and steps I take and technical stuff about screens, blah blah blah. Go check it out. Today we're gonna work on two photos again. Gonna kind of make it quick. I know some people have commented and said that I need to slow down. I agree. I just don't want to make these too long, and so I'm gonna kind of keep my same pace. And I just recommend you pause it if needed and go back if you need to see something. So yeah. Let's get some setup for this photo. This was shot a year and a half or 2 years ago. I can't remember. This was a wedding I did for a couple up in Washington. Really cool couple. And so let's get right into this. For this photo, I shot same 5D Mark II, and I had a Canon L 85-1.2 Mark II. One of my favorite lenses, favorite primes from Canon. It just looks magical. In almost any situation, honestly. Even shot at 1.2, it's very, very shallow depth of field, but it's still phenomenal. So for this shot, I shot at f2, mainly because I just wanted to make sure that she was in focus. Because it's so shallow, you can literally focus on your spot you want, typically the eye nearest to you. And if you just make a very slight movement, once your focus is locked in, it will go out of focus because it is so shallow. So that's something you have to be aware of. So I shot this at 2.0, 200ths of a second, and ISO 200, and so it's a very clean file. This is the raw, and if we zoom in, you can see it's, like I said, it's very, very shallow. You can see from this eye to this eye. This one's obviously more in focus. You can see I kind of goofed up on my focus. Looks like it back focused or front focused just a little bit right here instead of her eye. And again, that could have just been from a slight movement, just minimal. And so that's something you got to be aware of, and you'll learn. So for this photo, I'm going to keep it simple. It already looks really cool. I love the background, the blown out bokeh, and it's just the greenery. It was just beautiful, beautiful day. So I'm going to start with my exposure. And I'm going to leave it where it's at right now. Go to shadows, and I'm going to bring them down a lot, probably right about there. Go to the blacks, bring some more blacks in there. We can already see the image is starting to pop a little bit. And it's a little flat. The 85 seems to produce semi-flat tonal images for skin stuff. And so I like to use clarity on this lens a little bit. Just to kind of get more of that pop. And if you want to see the difference, you can see it right here. So from there to about here. And that kind of, it just brings out a little more detail and more of the places of their skin, the background, the edges, and and so forth. I'm going to start on white balance. I'm going to click this little eyedropper right here. And as I was trying to show in the last video, this is the button that I usually deselect. It's usually default selected, and so if you deselect this, you can go and get readings anywhere you want, and you don't have to go back and click on it. But if it's selected, you get one spot, you click it, and then it just chooses that, and then you have to go back here and do it again if you want another one. So it's a really good thing to have, just because if I don't like what it gives me first, then I'll go over here and click another spot and so forth. So I'm going to click on his white shirt here, and that looks, decent enough. I'm going to back the magenta off a little, and that's good enough. Maybe the white balance just a smidge, bring it up. And that's looking pretty cool for me. So let's go down here, and I'm going to go to the saturation and grab the green level and bring it up a lot. Let's see. So that's extreme. Let's go like maybe right there. That's good enough. Sharpening, I'm gonna put it to about 45, 50-ish, right about there, and that's good enough for me. I want very little vignetting in this photo. I don't want it to take away from anything. I do believe it kind of isolates the subject, like I say in my other videos, a little more, the subject being her. And so I'm not going to do much, probably just about, that's good enough for me. And just real quick, let's see what we've done so far. That's the before, and there's the after. So it's starting to look more like an image. And now that I've thrown the blacks and the shadows in there, I'm going to bring my exposure up just a little bit. I'm going to try that for now. It might be too much. I might back the blacks off a little. Okay, so now let's do some skin correction stuff. Let's grab this little eyedropper. It's a great tool. And I'm just going to go here, make sure we're on heal up here. And I'm just going to do some real quick adjustments, some healing, and make sure if these don't grab a good point you like, you can always tell it to grab a different one. That's good down there. And that looks good enough. Maybe we'll grab this one. Now I'm going to get another brush, and I'm going to go to the default iris enhance, and we'll start there. And I'm going to go around her eye just to kind of make it pop a little more. I'm going to do the same for this one, even though it's a little more blurred and in the dark. I'm going to zoom out and see what that's done so far, and you know, that's not too bad already. I might leave it or play with the exposure just a little. No, I'm going to leave it about where it was. I like that. That's pretty cool. I'm going to grab a new brush, and I'm going to clear it out. And I'm just going to bring the exposure down a lot just to see where I'm painting. And I'm going to work more on some detail stuff. And then we'll play with a couple more settings right here. So let's get rid of this. I'm going to grab clarity and bring that up a lot. And what you can see that has done is thrown some more blacks and details in whatever I painted over. And so, so far this image is looking really good. I like it. I might grab another brush because of the vignette. It kind of cut into his skin and it made him a little darker. So I say let's just try to light him up maybe a little. Let's grab shadows. No, that's going to look a little weird. Maybe exposure just a little bit. That's good enough. And this is looking pretty good so far. I'm going to move my screen real quick. Hold on. Let's look again back what it was. Okay. Some things I'm noticing is a little spot right here. We can clean that up real quick. Tell it to grab somewhere else. Let's do this one too while we're at it. And let's zoom out. Take a look at that one more time. Looking pretty good. Because it's darker over here in her skin, it's kind of showing more blemishes. And so let's grab a brush and do soften skin and just go over that. This is a pretty cool tool. All it is clarity, and it's just taking it and minusing it. So it's just blurring it and doing the opposite of what it would normally do. So I'm gonna put it right about there, and that's good enough for me. I might grab another one and just go over some spots, just maybe right in the cheek. I don't like doing the whole face. I think it looks fake usually if you were to soften the whole face, and normally I don't even soften the whole face. That's good enough for me. Let's grab another brush. I kind of like this hairpiece she's using. Their wedding theme was, I think it was like 50s, if I'm not mistaken. They had briefcases and a bunch of all of that stuff. It was funny. It was cool. Okay, so I'm going to clear this brush out. Remember, we just painted up here. And I'm going to go ahead and maybe bring the exposure up just a little. Grab the clarity. And that's cool. I like what it's doing with those shadows. That's great. We're going to grab a new brush. Going to go over her shoulder here. Something's funky right there. I think the vignette cut into it. So I'm going to bring the exposure up just a little. This is all meticulous stuff. You don't have to do this, you know, but whatever. Okay, I just grabbed a new brush, and now I'm painting over this background. I'm going to clear it out and grab clarity and throw it up a little and maybe grab exposure a little. That's good enough. Maybe saturation, see if that's, no, that's too much. So this is good. I'm liking this. Let's look at let's look at the starting image, the raw, and that's what it was. Some obvious things are going to be everything's quite flat, which is expected with a raw file, and which is what can intimidate people very often. And so what we basically did was we darkened up the midtones and the blacks, and we brought a lot more detail out of stuff. And we isolated the subject a little more with using a slight vignette and drawing your eye a little more toward her. So this is really cool. I like this. I would deliver this and be very happy, and I imagine the client would be fairly happy too, but you never know. Okay, so real quick, we'll zoom in and check detail. Pretty good. And now let's move on to the next one. This is the same wedding, and as you can see now, you see the briefcases, the 50s theme, and this is a shot with the groomsmen. Really cool guys. And I kind of set them up in this, I think we're at a train station, I believe. So this was right outside of it, brick wall, really looked cool. And I had, just for some setup for this shot, I had 2 flashes, one camera right and one camera left. And this is back when I was using umbrellas. Nothing's wrong with umbrellas. I just don't use them anymore. I use more soft boxes. And I had 2 speed lights. They were probably full power. And for my settings, same camera, 5D Mark II, ISO 200, and this was with Canon 16-35 Mark II wide lens. Pretty cool lens. And I shot it at 7.1. This was before I had ND filters to compensate for the flash. So 7.1 at 1/200th of a second, which is my flash sync speed. So if we zoom in, this is the raw. You can tell it's very sharp. Main reason is it's shot at 7.1, which is the range that most lenses shine and are sharpest. And so let's get right on into this. I'm going to go ahead and crop it first. I left a little room to crop because the lens has a fair amount of distortion on the edges because it's a wide angle. And so I chose to pull back a little further but still get a wide look. So I'm going to crop it kind of like this, and that's good. I like that light up here. It's kind of cool. And let's get right to it. I'm going to leave my exposure where it's at, grab my shadows, bring them down a lot. I'm looking for more of a moody feel for this photo. Grab my blacks. That's good for now. Clarity, I'm going to bring it up a little to about 10. Gonna go down here, nothing here. Go to sharpening. It's really sharp, so I'm really not gonna touch that. Vignetting, I will play with just a smidge, maybe about that. That's good enough for me. Now let's go ahead and grab some brushes and start playing around with this. I'm gonna clear this out, grab my clarity, throw it up, and I'm gonna start painting on the background just a little. Take your time when you do this. I'm just gonna do this real quick. Throw my clarity up, and I kind of like that. Maybe bring the exposure up just a smidge. That's good enough for me. Clarity a little more. There we go. Grab a new brush. Clarity, same thing. I'm going to go on the bottom here and just do the same thing. Maybe brighten it up just a smidge. Not too much. I don't want the eye to go down to the floor. That's good enough. I'm going to grab another brush. I'm going to start painting on this briefcase. And I'm not going to paint the whole thing because I kind of want it to look like streaks of light or something maybe was hitting it. So that's good enough for that. Grab a new brush, maybe even lighten it up a little more. Ugh, that's extreme. I'm going to reset that. Ooh, shoot, don't click that button. That resets all of your brushes. Command Z for Apple. That'll get us back where we were. I'm just going to click on this and delete. That's a better way to do it. And I'm going to go ahead and paint over this again. And that's a little too much, obviously, so I'm going to do about, right about there is good. Grabbing another brush right here. Going to go over this briefcase. This one looked really cool. And I'm going to bring the exposure up a little, throw the clarity up even more. That's good enough for me. This one, now that I see it, it's a little too bright. Good enough. Grab another brush. Gonna go over this one. What I'm trying to do is show you guys that you can do a lot with the brushes. It's a great tool in Lightroom, and you can do really a lot. So you don't always need Photoshop. Grab another brush, coming over here, doing the same thing with all these briefcases. Just kind of want them to pop a little more. And that's good. This one's a little in the dark. And that is great. So from here on, we could even try something as simple as grabbing another brush. Maybe go over this light bulb. And we could throw the exposure up a lot. And if you wanted to make it like a yellow halogen light or something, we could try to do that. I don't know how much you can really do in here. Maybe if you grab this little color button right here, choose a color. And we're getting extreme here, but let's try it out. You know, it's not bad. I don't really like that yellow tinge anymore. It's kind of gross. I would say more of a white would be better. But I don't know. Let's see here. Let's stick with white. And maybe tone it down a little just so it looks like it's on, but not too bright. And that's good. I'm going to grab my overall exposure and bring it up. No, I like where it's at. That's good enough. But for now, let's get our white balance. I'm going to click on maybe his pants here because they're gray. That's a little too warm to start out. Click maybe on the white shirt. Let's try this. Come on. Give me something that's good. We'll start there and maybe tone it down a little. Maybe bring the magenta down a little. It's a little too warm for me. Now I'm seeing that exposure is a little too bright. So let's bring that down. And that's better. Maybe grab one more brush. I kind of like this grate behind him. And maybe just bring up the light just a little bit. And that's cool. Gonna grab one more brush and just go a little crazy. Going up on those bricks. I don't want much. That's good enough, just clarity. So this is looking pretty cool. One thing I noticed is this guy's face is a little blown out. I'm not sure why. We could go ahead and grab a brush, go over his face, and reset this, and grab the highlights and maybe even bring it down a little. And that's good enough for me. One thing I see too is this guy had a wallet or a phone. I always try to catch that before my photos, but sometimes you just don't see it. We could see if this tool will work. I don't think it's gonna. It might just look a little funky. Come on. Work, 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 work. Just blend it in. We'll see if what that looks like. Yeah, that doesn't look good. You'd have to go into Photoshop and remove that if you didn't want it. But yeah, I'm really happy with this photo. This looks good. I really like this flare that was getting produced by either one of my lights or the sun. I think it was probably the sun. And so if we want to go ahead and look at the beginning, there's the raw, and there's afterward. It almost has an HDR-ish feel, but not overly HDR, because obviously we have detail on all of the shadows, and they're really dark and so forth. But it almost looks maybe like a composite as well. I really like it. I would be happy with this. In fact, this is probably a way better edit than when I delivered it to them 2 years ago. And that's just the case. I feel like you get better in time. So, yeah, you know, I've been really appreciating the comments I've been getting. Some of them have been a little negative, but I need to hear the negative ones because it'll make me better, right? So if you're just tuning in, go check out some of the other videos. Like this one, subscribe, and comment, and go to my Facebook page and like it. I really would appreciate it, and I'll keep these videos coming, along with eventually in the field videos of me using camera off light or off camera lighting and so forth. That's just going to take a little more work, and I'm working up to it. So everybody, appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next time.